Hi, my name is Ellen Louviere. I teach in Iberia Parish and I work for Anderson Middle School. I currently teach 8th grade Louisiana history. The content being taught today is colonial Louisiana, and the curriculum used is straight from the scope and sequence put out by the state. My lesson objectives were to analyze the successes and failures of French and Spanish Louisiana, and then evaluate which group had the greater success in the development of Louisiana. My expectations for this lesson are for my kids to form a clear opinion of whether France or Spain ran a more successful colony. They will need evidence to back up their claim from the resources we've looked at. My kids will then write a well-constructed essay telling if France or Spain ran a more successful colony. They will follow the LEAP assessment rubric whenever they are writing. Prior to this lesson, my kids spent 3 days analyzing several resources from the scope and sequence and created a T-chart comparing France to Spain. I prepared to teach this lesson by going back into the kids' completed charts and adding a purple question that will require them to use prior knowledge. This lesson connects to the overall goal to describe the contributions of explorers and early settlement groups to the development of Louisiana, because we are discussing the ways France and Spain shaped Louisiana's identity. What you need to know about this class is it is a regular ed class. This is not my honors class. I chose this class because they are a hard working group and they really enjoy history. I do have one 504 student in the class. You will not see him on the video because he did not have parental consent. The accommodations I made for him today was I let him use a paper and pencil copy of everything that we've looked at, and he was paired up with another student that did not have parental consent. Also, what you need to know is each group organized had a high, medium, and low student in it. You may also need to know that students may not be looking at me when I'm at the Promethean board because they have the exact same thing on their computer screen. So they may look at the board with me or they may look at their computer screen. I have several that find it much easier to look at their screen. So if you don't see them looking, they're looking at their screen at the exact same thing. Today's lesson, what we're going to be doing is building upon an activity we've already done where we've analyzed the successes and failures of French and Spanish Louisiana. What we're going to do today is look at that chart and we're going to evaluate which group had a greater success, France or Spain. Our end product today, after we look at this chart, is we're going to write an essay where you're going to have to pick a country, back it up with evidence. So what I want you to do right now is, we should all be in Google Classroom. Go ahead and click on France versus Spain. And we should see our chart that we've already created. In this chart, what it's doing is, it is comparing French Louisiana to Spanish Louisiana. We've already put all this in. We know the first part, it looks at the economy of France versus Spain. What I did is I went back in. So we see here, French plantations. They always had a problem. They started to grow indigo and tobacco, but they never made any money at it. We'll work on this one together. Think about it. They started to grow indigo and tobacco at Fort Rosalie, and then something happened with the Natchez at Fort Rosalie. What happened?
The French kept moving onto their land, and then the Natchez attacked it when they were asleep.
Right, they attacked it and they killed most of the people at the fort. What happened to the people who survived? Did they want to stay?
No.
No, they wanted to get out of there, right? Would you want to stay somewhere where people were just slaughtered? No, so they left. So France's big opportunity to grow indigo and tobacco really failed. So by looking at this chart, you see here in purple, I even gave you a hint. As we're working in our groups, which we're going to do in just a second, I want you to just kind of review the chart. You'll see a few purple questions in the chart. What I want you to do as you're reviewing as a group is answer those purple questions. Those are questions that come from where?
Prior knowledge.
Prior knowledge, right? These are all things that were not in the resources we looked at, but it's stuff we learned throughout our unit. We're going to take the next 7 minutes. So remember, what was it called whenever if we're looking at government? King Louis thought Louisiana was a big hunk of junk and he was broke, so he decided to loan money to somebody and allow them to run Louisiana like a what? Like a business, what was it called? Proprietorship. Who was the first proprietor? Antoine Crozat. Did he care about the people? What did he care about? Finding gold and silver. Does he ever find any? No, he never finds any gold in Louisiana. And remember, a push factor does what?
Push them out.
Right, he pushes them out. So what happened in France?
French Revolution.
French Revolution. What was happening to all the nobles?
They were getting killed.
Why were they mad at the nobles?
Because they didn't have to pay taxes and the poor did.
Right, the poor people were the only ones having to pay taxes. So they escaped to Louisiana. That pull factor. What made them fit in Louisiana? What was the
Same religion, same language.
Right, they already had French culture.
Were they offered something?
They actually were offered land and they were offered a role in politics as well. If you are done, take about the next minute while some of us are wrapping up and review this chart. Skim through this chart again, make sure you have all purple questions answered, along with the information we've already put in. Because this chart you're going to use for our next step, which is to write our essay. We have our chart, we have it completed. Remember, we don't have to save it because it automatically saves, so everything you've typed has been now added to the chart. So that's a little bit of our prior knowledge that we've added to the chart. What we are going to do next is, everybody go back to our class page. And this is what your page should look like. We should see our chart. Next, we are going to see a link to our essay. This is our final product of all the work that we've done. Here, I've given you a copy of the LEAP Assessment Extended Rubric. This shows us here, in order to earn a 4, we've got to have all of the stuff we always need. But remember, in order to earn a 4, you have also got to pull in some prior knowledge. That's why I added this purple part that was not in any of our resources. If we scroll down, here is our big idea, our big question. Why was Spain able to develop Louisiana into a more successful and stable colony compared to France? These topics must be addressed. It's all of the topics in your chart. Economy, religion, government, population and ethnic groups, and slavery. Be sure when you are writing, if you tell me something great about Spain, tell me it was a better success, what do you need to balance it out?
A D grade or something.
Right, reason for France as to why it didn't work for France. So, take a minute, look at your rubric, make sure you know what you're writing. What equals a 4? Our goal on the LEAP test is always to earn a 4. And then I want you to reread your questions so you know exactly what you are writing. If you have any questions, who do you ask? You. Me. Now that we have had a few minutes to start our essay, Monty, tell me about the economics of Spain versus France.
So the reason why they had done so good in economics was because they let in different types of merchants.
They did?
And like it was just
What economic policy do they kind of ignore that France? Mercantilism that France was really strict on. So we see that let them make a lot of money. Paris, what religion were both countries? Catholic. So was it an easy transition whenever the Spanish came in? They didn't have to make anybody change religions, right? When Spain let in Americans, did they make them change their religion? They just had to what? Keep it on the low, right? Don't go around spreading that. We're letting you keep your religion. They wanted Americans in, though, because they came in and they traded. And what did it allow them to make? Money. And I tell you all the time, what 2 things rule the world?
Money and religion.
Money and religion, that's right. We've covered economics. We've talked about the religion. We know Spain was able to raise the population because they let a bunch of people in. Slavery is something we're really going to touch on next chapter and the chapter after that. We know whenever Bienville founded what big city? New Orleans. It was mainly built by who? Slaves. It was mainly built by slaves. And we know Bienville had his own set of laws called Code what?
Noir.
Code Noir. Were the slaves treated fairly?
Yes. Well, no. Code Noir.
They couldn't even marry somebody without having to ask their owner.
Right. Look at you learning stuff. So,
Yes.
He does. He allows slave owners to be able to free their slaves without permission. He allows slave owners to marry without permission from the government. He also allows slaves to be able to buy their own freedom. This we're going to see next chapter in New Orleans. We see New Orleans becomes the city with the largest number of free people of color in the entire country. Because of what O'Reilly did, a lot of slaves were allowed to buy their own freedom. Looked at all of these different things. We started our essay. Tomorrow we are going to complete our essay. Tonight, review this chart. It'll make your life a whole lot easier tomorrow. And this all goes back to, once we finish this kind of wraps up our big claim of what is the legacy of settlement and colonization on an area's identity. So, very quickly, what are some legacies of Spanish settlement? Dildo. What do we see right here in New Iberia?
Metal railing.
Metal railing. The what?
The Louviere divided into parishes.
Parishes. We got parishes. Sugar mills. Above ground tombs. That's right. So those are tons of things that we still see in Louisiana today from Spain. What about France? Do we see any French legacies?
Yes.
Like what?
Music.
We see Cajun music, right? That's from the French.
Our religion.
New Orleans was built by the French.
Our religion.
Religion. Majority of people in South Louisiana, a lot of us are Catholic. So we see a lot of different legacies, which goes back to our claim from France and Spain. Even though, once we look, we see what country probably did a better job.
Spain.
We see that Spain probably did. So what I want you to do right now, everything is automatically saved. I want you to log out and shut your Chromebooks. And on the way out the door, put them back in their appropriate slots. My lesson objectives were met through the completed essay, questioning the students, and observation of group conversations. Next time I do this lesson, I would offer anyone who wants it a paper version. Several kids struggled with the mouse on the Chromebook, and as they were working on the chart, they found it difficult to toggle back and forth between so many resources. After the video, my kids took another class period to finish up and complete their essay. We then had a group discussion about why Spain did a better job than France, and I asked them to pull from what we've done in our chart. I also asked the students if they had ever heard of Napoleon. I explained a small background of him and had the kids predict what will happen to Louisiana next.